Your story might be the very thing someone needs to hear in order to keep going. Hi, I'm Shara, and you're listening to Life Stories. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2, or just welcome if you didn't listen to episode 1. Hope you're having a great day. In the last episode I said that I would probably do this one about my daughter and the fact that I had her in high school, and trying to keep a story concise, under 20 minutes or so that I could say so much about will be difficult, but I'm going to try to do it. So, my daughter will be 31 in a few months, and she is one of my favorite people in the whole world, and it's not because I'm her mom. I feel so privileged to be her mom, but that's not why she's my favorite. She's just an incredible woman. She is funny, and she's kind. She's real. She's going to tell you like it is. She's like her dad, and her daughter is just like her in that she's very much an organizer. She's a planner. She keeps people in line. She reminds me of things repeatedly because she knows I will forget. I have to write something down to remember it, and sometimes I forget to write it down. So she knows she has to tell me things often. We text all the time about random things, TV shows and music and recipes and whatever. We talk on the phone occasionally, or we FaceTime, but mostly it's just random text about stuff. She invites me to go with her to Trader Joe's on her monthly trip, and she will let me hang out at their house, when her husband goes out of town, which is not often. I used to do this whenever the girls were very little. I would go help. I would spend the night over there and help her with the girls when they were tiny and she was by herself. And now the girls are fine. They're big, big enough to be a little bit more self-reliant. And Kylie doesn't need my help like she did when the girls were little. But now I do it just for fun. We have a girls' night. I just enjoy getting to spend time with her. When I'm with her and the girls, it's difficult for she and I to talk because the girls want all my attention, and they're used to having all my attention if they are around. So now that they're both in school, I enjoy going, for the day, and we can go get a Starbucks, and we can go to Target, or we can go to wherever, Trader Joe's, whatever we want to do. I just enjoy talking to her. She is someone who is kinder than necessary. She gives people the benefit of the doubt. She's just an amazing woman that I am privileged to call my daughter. And when I was pregnant with her, I was still in high school. I had her in January of our senior year. And I didn't know at that time that we would have the relationship that we do now. I didn't even think about it. It wasn't something I was hoping for or, wondering about. At that time, I was just wanting to get through each day. Is she healthy? Is she not sick? Am I doing okay? Am I surviving? Is she surviving? That's all I could manage, was getting through each day. So I had no idea that our relationship would be the way it was. In fact, there's a lot of things I didn't know when I had her. At 17, our brains are not fully developed at 17. So jumping into motherhood and marriage as a teenager made things a lot more difficult. Being a mom and being a wife, you still have to handle life situations no matter how old you are. So it just made it more difficult starting that young. It wasn't impossible, it just made it more difficult. You're not emotionally prepared, I don't think, to handle some situations when you're that young. And yet you still have to handle them. So there were several things that I didn't know. I didn't realize I would need the support that I had, and I'm so thankful that I had it. I'm thankful for a family that did not kick me out, that, paid for the things that we could not afford to pay for, that knew things that needed to be done that we didn't know. We were clueless. I'm so thankful for our supportive families who loved our daughter more than anything, and they helped us greatly. I know we wouldn't be where we are right now without them. I'm thankful that my boyfriend wanted to be with me. He stuck around, and he didn't just ditch me and move on after we had a baby. But even, I was living at home with my parents before we got married, and he would come over in the evenings and rock our daughter to sleep every night. I'm thankful that he was around and he helped and wanted to be a dad. I'm thankful that ignorance is bliss, because it never once occurred to me when I was pregnant with my daughter or my sons, because I was still very young when I was pregnant with them, that anything could possibly go wrong. Not once did it ever occur to me that there might be a problem in my pregnancy, in the delivery. Never once. And if I were to get pregnant now, please, Lord Jesus, no, I would know way too much. I have friends and family members, lots of them, that have had miscarriages. I have a friend that had a baby that was stillborn. I have friends that have had children that were born with health issues. And you deal with the things that you are dealt. You do. But I just know too much. I would be a worried mess if I were to get pregnant now, because I just know too much. I'm the girl that Googles every symptom I get to wonder what is wrong with me. Like, every symptom. It's ridiculous. I have to stop doing that because it doesn't help anything. But I never even thought that something might go wrong. And so I'm glad I was that clueless. I also didn't know that, I'm the kind of person that if I have to face something difficult and I don't have any other option, like this is the only way out is straight through, then I just do it. I just do it, go straight through. I don't think about it. I just do it. And on one hand, that's good because, I don't wallow. I don't sit around and expect everybody to feel sorry for me because life isn't going the way I want. And here's the thing about going through something difficult. Everybody does. Everybody faces hard times. And the world doesn't stop turning when we face hard times. Life continues to go on for everybody else no matter what we are going through. And sometimes that seems so unfair. How can people just live their lives when I'm going through this hard thing? But it just does. Life just goes on. And we're not responsible for everybody else. And we're not responsible for the way people react and respond. We're responsible for ourselves. And so, I didn't sit around waiting for people to feel sorry for me. And it's not because I was just so strong and so, I got it all together. I just didn't. That wasn't my personality anyway. But the downside to that is when you don't deal with the emotional aspect of the hard things that you're going through when you're going through them, you're going to have to deal with them eventually. It's going to hit you eventually. And you have to grieve the losses that you have in your life. It may not be a loss of a person. It may be a loss of a dream. Your life completely flipped upside down and you didn't get to do the things you dreamed about doing. And you have to grieve that. That's a human process. You've got to grieve that. The plans that you made or that you thought you were going to have, the dreams that you had that you're now no longer going to get to have. You need to grieve those things. And so it took me decades to realize that. And it took other hard things I had to go through to realize that I needed to grieve over those losses. There were things that I just had to deal with emotionally that I did not realize I needed to at 17. And so I've learned to do that, not just for that time in my life, but for other situations in my life. I think the hardest thing, besides the obvious, having a baby at 17, still being in school, the hardest thing I had to deal with at that time was shame. Shame can be very heavy. It can become a very heavy burden on you. And I think shame is something we put on ourselves. People may say things about us. They may do things to us, but we're the ones that carry the shame for it. And of course I was ashamed that I was pregnant. It didn't seem fair because I was quote unquote a good girl. I thought I was a good girl. I went to church every Sunday and I didn't skip school and I didn't drink and I followed the rules and tried to stay out of trouble. And I thought I was a good kid. Well, none of those things make you a good person. They just don't. I was dealing with the consequences of my actions. I mean, that's just the truth of it. And so even though it didn't seem fair, that's the road I had to walk. And so I was very ashamed, not of my daughter. I was ashamed of the choices that I made and that I was pregnant in high school. And one of the biggest areas that I was ashamed were the families that I babysat for. Because growing up, I was a babysitter. I mean, I I babysat for years. I did that. And I laugh now when I think about how young I was when these people let me at home alone with their children. I was a kid myself. I had two specific families that I babysat for, and for a long time, like years. Loved those families. I still love those families. I'm friends with the moms on Facebook, and some of the kids, they're now all grown, and most of them are married and have children. And in fact, I got to see one several months ago. I was very happy to see her. But that one was hard for me because I think those were the people I was most concerned about, wondering what they were going to think of me. And they loved me. The families loved me. The moms were very supportive and encouraging and loved me. And, they didn't think anything different. They were probably shocked. They were probably surprised, maybe disappointed. I don't know. But they still loved me, and they were very kind to me. But that was the hardest because I thought, what are those kids going to think about me? What are the moms going to think about me? Here I've been around these kids all these years, and it was nothing like I anticipated. It was nothing that I needed to be afraid of because they just loved me, and I'm thankful for that. It was difficult to be pregnant and have a baby at 17. It was difficult to get married, but it's not easy at any time in your life. I don't know anybody that's ever said, "Oh my gosh, having a baby was so easy. Raising a child was so easy. Getting married, the easiest thing I've ever done." Nobody's ever said that. If you think that, you need to let me know how you do that, because I've never felt that way. As hard as it was, I was very thankful for the support, not just of my family, but of my friends in school. And I had friends that called often and visited and, checked on me, and I'm so thankful for those. But there's some very sweet memories that I have of some friends during that time. The first one, I know she probably gets tired of me telling this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. And it just was one of those random, well, it wasn't random. It was an act of kindness that changed my life. And it has changed me in that after that moment, it made me look at doing things for people, kind things for people, in a different way. And it wasn't like I ever do things because, oh, look at me, I need attention because I'm doing something nice. No, it's made me change my attitude about doing things for people, because you never know when doing something kind for someone is going to rock their world. You just don't know. You have no idea how it could change somebody. And so when I was still in high school, still pregnant, I was in drill team, and I had to get out of drill team, obviously. So for whatever reason, I decided I was going to tell the drill team that I was pregnant and that I was getting out. And I think my thought was, they're going to hear it anyway, and I would rather them hear it from me. And it's not like, we had, 40-something girls in there. It's not like we were all BFFs, I promise. I was the quiet girl that tried to kind of keep to myself. So it wasn't like they were all my dear friends that I wanted to tell them. I don't know why I thought this, because if you know me now, you know that signing up to stand in front of a crowd and talk is not something I ever do. In fact, if we ever have things at church or different, places where I'm going to be, I will avoid that position at all costs. I do not like doing that at all. You can ask my husband. He knows I do not like being in front of people. So I decided I was going to tell everybody I was pregnant. And I hadn't told anyone up until that point, other than my family, that I was pregnant. And so if anybody else knew, they did not hear it from me. So that day, I think it was on a Friday, the class that we had for drill team was the last period of the day. And every class period, every time the bell rang to release us to a new class period, my stomach just got tighter and tighter. Even though I was scared to death, I was determined. I was determined to do this. And so we get to the last class period, and I let the directors know I was there, but I went straight to the locker rooms because I was either going to throw up or I don't know what I was going to do. I just needed a minute by myself. And so I was pacing in there, and I was praying, and I was like, wanted to cry, but I couldn't even cry because I was just so freaked out about the whole situation. And I went back in the gym, and the director asked someone to close the doors and said that, everybody needed to move in close because I had something I needed to say. So they all move in close. They're all sitting on the floor. And my friend Brandy came up to me, and she whispered in my ear and said, I know what's going on, and I know what you're about to do. Do you want me to come sit with you? And that was such a huge weight off of my shoulders. The reason Brandy knew that I was pregnant is because my dad was in a Bible study with her dad once a week. And my dad told her dad that I was pregnant and what I was going to do. And then he told her dad told her. And I never got to thank him for that. I guess I never realized how important that was, what he did. And he has since passed away. And I was thinking about this the other day as I was preparing to share this story. I was thinking about how thankful I am that he did that, because if he hadn't, she might not have known. And if she didn't know, she wouldn't have been able to stand up there with me. And so, thank you, Bill, if you can hear me. I will always, always be thankful for that. So, yes, I told her absolutely. And so she sat with me and she kind of rubbed my back, while I'm trying to get up the nerve to say what I needed to say. And she was encouraging me, you can do it. It's okay, you can do it. And so I did, and everybody was very supportive, very sweet. I was just happy to be done. I was happy to have it over with, and I felt like I could breathe, and, life went on. But I think about other friends that helped me during that time. All of our friends were either dating, or I don't know that anybody got married right when we did. I know some people got married a couple of years after we did, but they were dating and they were doing their thing, but they still were present in our lives. They were still willing to come over for dinner or come over and hang out or do whatever. And it was sweet to me that they would be willing to do that when they didn't have kids. They weren't married. They weren't tied down in any way, but they were willing to hang out with us. And I love that. And I think about my friend Melody. After I had my daughter, I was home for about 6 weeks, and I had a teacher that would bring schoolwork home for me, all my homework, so I could get it done. And I was in accounting my senior year, and so Melody would come over and bring me my work and help me. She would help me with whatever. And I found a picture recently of Melody sitting in my living room with my daughter on her lap while she's showing me the work. It's the cutest picture. It is the cutest picture. Anyway, it makes me laugh just thinking about it. She was so precious to me, such a sweet friend. And during that time, now I did this because my mom encouraged me to do this. And had I gotten pregnant later in life, I'm sure I probably would have chosen. But I nursed my daughter, mainly because it was free. But it's also, the best option. And I got a pass to go home at lunch every day. Our principal gave me a pass to go home for lunch every day. So I either went all the way home when my mom was keeping her. I went to my grandmother's house when she kept my daughter. And I actually still have that pass. It's laminated and it's in my daughter's baby book. But one time I needed to go home, and we only had one car to use between my dad and I. And I don't know if he had gone somewhere or the car was broken or what was going on. But Melody let me use her car to go home to feed my daughter, which I thought was so kind of her. It was just very sweet gesture. And I have not forgotten that. And I also think about, talking about friends that were kind and supported us. We had a Christmas party. We had a lot of friends come over, and I have pictures of everybody that were there and these couples. I mean, we didn't do anything fancy. We were hanging out in our tiny, tiny little house. But people came, and I was so thankful. It made me feel special. But I guess, I don't know, earlier this year, we have friends. Every year this happens. There's baseball tournaments, like regional tournaments, or I don't know which one it is, like Little League tournaments that come to our area. This year, one of my very dearest friends, she was one of my very first friends that lived 2 blocks from me growing up. She is married and has 2 kids, and her son was playing in the baseball tournament. And so when I have friends that have kids that play, I always go watch. Plus, I wanted to get to see them and whoever else was there. Well, my friend and her husband, Kim and Brad, they were at that Christmas party that first year. And they would know what year it was, because I walk into the stadium, and the stadium is packed. School I went to growing up, from kindergarten until I graduated, is known for the school spirit. And here they were, 4.5, 5 hours from home, and it was packed. Like, there was no room anywhere. They all had traveled to watch these Little League, boys play. So it's packed. There's a ton of people, and I walk up to see Kim, and Brad stands up, and he's yelling, like everybody can hear him. But he said, "Do you know that our first date was at your Christmas party at your house?" Oh my gosh, that blessed my heart so much. I thought it was so sweet. I don't know what year they got married, but they've been married for a long time and are doing very well. And that made me feel so good that, I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was their first date. I have their picture because I found it after he had told me that. All the pictures of everybody, all the couples from that night. But it was a sweet memory. And, you know, I said this in the first episode, and I still mean it, and I still believe it very much. Just because things don't go the way you want, just because they don't happen the way you think they're going to happen, or maybe in the timing you think they're going to happen, they can still be beautiful. And my story, it did not go the way I thought. It just didn't. But it's a beautiful story, and I have a beautiful family, and I'm very, very thankful. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed my story. I hope that you remember that your story can be beautiful too, even if it's not going the way you had planned it to go. Have a wonderful day.